Type. Oh, it's already set? Type. Okay. All right. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah. Wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in amma ba'd. Jazakumullahu khairan. For the brothers and the sisters who have been waiting patiently for the live stream or live streams, and for tonight's Q&A marathon. Let's see what we can get done bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. I'm sorry? Fadl.
So, I was reading in Tirmidhi, the hadith about if a man comes to you asking for your daughter and you're pleased with his deen, his manners, then to marry him to her, to
Okay.
the woman folk. And after the hadith, it said that it was da'if, and then in the footnote it said that Sheikh Albani said that it was Hassan.
Okay.
I was wondering about the discrepancies between those two and how they can be harmonized, if at all, and what is the correct view on the hadith.
Clear. Right, Bismillah. First question is regarding the hadith that states that when a man who has a good religion and who has fine character comes asking for the hand of your daughter in marriage, then marry him. Allow him to get married to your daughter. And if you don't do so, takun fitna wa fasadun kabir. There will be problems and all types of corruption. I read this hadith in Jami' Tirmidhi. He says, the questioner says, that Tirmidhi rahimahullah said that it was weak. And I read in the footnotes that Sheikh Albani rahimahullah said that it is Hassan. What about the discrepancies between these two rulings? Can they be harmonized, if and when, how, etc.? And what is the correct view regarding the hadith? So let's start off with the last part of the question. I don't think there are two scholars of Islam, of past or of present, who differ on the reality that this hadith's meaning is sound. Is that there is a Muslim who comes and asks for your daughter's hand in marriage or your sister's hand in marriage, and he prays 5 times a day. He gives his zakat if he's eligible to do so or required to do so. He fasts. He makes hajj. Obviously, he bears shahada, Allah ilaha Muhammad Rasulullah. He's practicing the fundamentals of Islam and inshallah much more. And on top of him having a good religion, he has good character. He smiles, he's kind, he's inshallah ta'ala a good person. He's a good character, well-mannered young man. If you refuse to marry him to your daughter or your sister, there will be many, many problems in the land. No two scholars are going to differ on the validity of that metin. It's isnad, is it mursal, is it mawsul, etc. Different story. But what's correct is, or what's the most important thing, أهم شيء في هذه المسألة صحة معنى الحديث. Is that the hadith is sound in its meaning, ليس فيه شيء من النكارة. And there's nothing which is disavowed or disacknowledged and is unbefitting to be attributed to the what? To the Prophet ﷺ, like many hadiths in which there are discrepancies between the scholars of the past and the present, there is. And there's a million hasanat for saying this one thing. Okay? The most hated lawful thing to Allah is talaq, mathalan. That's something in which there's a problem in the text. And a scholar and a researcher could say this is unbefitting of the Prophet ﷺ to say something like that. So there's nothing wrong with the meaning of that hadith. That's the correct view. Bottom line. Matters not, authentic or not. There are other proofs and evidences to support the importance of getting married, of marrying off, and not looking at color, race, age, profession, etc. Wadah? That's the most important thing. As far as the discrepancies between Sheikh Al-Albani rahimahullah and Imam At-Tirmidhi rahimahullah, if and when, so on and so forth. And as we have mentioned before, with regards to the sciences of hadith, and from the sciences of hadith is Bab al-Tasheeh wa Tad'if. Saying hadith is sound and saying hadith isn't sound. At-Tahseen, At-Tasheeh, At-Tad'if, At-Ta'leel. Okay? These are all from the aspects of the ilm al-hadith. And the ilm al-hadith no different than ilm al-fiqh. There are things in which the ulama unanimously agree on. And there are things in which they unanimously say cannot be. And then there's issue for ijtihad. The ulama themselves of the earlier generations could differ. Ahmed says a thing, Ibn Ma'in says a thing. Bukhari says it's authentic, Ahmed says it's daif. The ulama of the 3rd century could differ with the ulama of the 7th and the 8th century, Hafiz bin Hajar, al-Iraqi. And the ulama of the 8th century could differ with the ulama of today. Shaykh Albani says, Hasan bi majmu' turuqihi. This is a supporting narration, that's a supporting narration, that's a supporting narration. يدل على أن له أصلا. And al-Iraqi may say no. وهكذا. Last but not least, or not last but not least, but another point is that every scholar oftentimes, or not every scholar, but many scholars, له مصطلحات تختص بهم واستعمالات تختص بهم. They have usages of words and terms which oftentimes are shared and oftentimes are specific to them. A perfect example of this, and something that makes a great deal of confusion and oftentimes unnecessary discrepancy in khilaf, is the Tirmidhi when he says, هذا حديث حسن. The Tirmidhi says it's Hasan, and then Albani rahimahullah, he comes along and he says, هو متساهل في التصحيح. فلذلك لا يعتمد العلماء على تحسين الترمذي, etc. مثلا, Tirmidhi saying a hadith is Hasan is not the same meaning as Ibn Hajar saying it's Hasan. Tirmidhi has a specific usage and meaning of the word Hasan, which is different than many scholars of his time, let alone those who came later on, let alone those of the modern era. So a capital mistake is to take Tirmidhi rahimahullah ta'ala to court with your jurisdiction. Everyone understand this? And this is a very important aspect of life. Perfect example in the modern world, in history, war crimes. War crimes. When a country captures captives, they take soldiers and they torture them. Or they don't give them food and nourishment. They don't provide them with medical needs. Or in jail, they don't give you access to a lawyer or to a phone and so on and so on and so forth, right? And a person says, this is illegal. This is against such and such. This is against such and such. A person in a POW camp says, this is against the Geneva Convention. And the one who's running the POW camp, he says, you're not where? In Geneva. We didn't sign the Geneva contract. So the United States, we know that they fought in World War II, and they fought in 2 main theaters of war. There were other theaters, but 2 main theaters. There was the European theater, and there was the Pacific theater. They also fought in Africa, so on and so forth, but those are the 2 main ones, right? Okay? And obviously the Pacific theater was first, before D-Day, the invasion of France, all right? Which was occupied by the Axis at the time. So there were many American soldiers that were killed, supposedly, that were murdered, that were raped. There was reports of cannibalism, all types of atrocities that was done by Imperial Japan to American soldiers. So obviously when the war was over, Japan was utterly defeated. They had total surrender. They wanted their prisoners back. They wanted reparations, fines, etc. for the crimes that were done. What did they think that Imperial Japan, they said? They said, these things don't apply. We don't owe you anything. We don't have to apologize for anything because we never what? Signed the Geneva Convention. We were not under that what? Jurisdiction. So you can't get mad or upset. Right, wrong, true, false, we did it to the people or we didn't. But we were not under that belief that this is what is done with a captive of war and a prisoner of a rival or an unfriendly, a hostile army. So it's a capital mistake to take someone to court in your jurisdiction. Everyone understand this? And the same applies to Muslim and non-Muslim. How can you have a second wife? How does a woman cover her face? That's wrong to you, but it's not wrong to us. How can a man who's this age marry a woman of that age? In your jurisdiction, that's wrong and immoral and pedophilia. Not in another person's jurisdiction. So you have to also always agree on the things which the people what? It's clear, everyone can agree on. Subjective things, different laws, not the same. So you cannot call Tirmidhi rahimahullah mutasahil for saying a hadith is Hasan and it's a kadhab in the isnad or this or whatever the case may be. That's wrong because the Tirmidhi does not mean Hasan what Albani means by Hasan. So that's a ghalta. That's a huge mistake and many people they make that mistake. Scholar, student, layman person, they make that mistake. And it's extremely important to understand that. Also, another concept is a gharib. What does the word gharib mean? Some ulama they mean a gharib to mean lays lahu asl. There's no isnad. And others they use to mean lahu isnad wahid. Tafarrad bihi rawin an ila akhirih. And others they may use the word gharib for something which they don't know about. Alright? And then we have the concept of مثلا fa'ida. They say هذا الحديث فائدة. This hadith is a fa'ida, a benefit. And you may consider to, oh, he's dependent upon it. Or that's his fiqh view. And he may mean by the term fa'ida that the hadith is a khata, munkar. And it's a fa'ida because it's something which is strange and irregular. Or another example of this is the concept of the hadith being authentic versus the fiqh view. So the famous hadith that says, Al-udhunani min al-ras. The ears are a part of the head. Al-udhunani min al-ras. I.e., when you make wudu, to do what? Wipe the ears. And you don't need fresh water for the ears because the water for the ears is the same water from the head. So it's quoted that Imam Ahmad rahimahullah ta'ala held the view that the ears are to be wiped. Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah ta'ala and Silsilat al-Hadith al-Sahihah and others, he says that this is a proof that Imam Ahmad considered the hadith to be authentic is that he took it. And there are other researchers and scholars who said that's wrong. Just because Imam Ahmad held the view that the udhunan are from the ras does not mean أنه صح hadith Abi Humama, that he made the hadith of Abu Umama authentic. But there are other narrations, Sahaba, Tabi'een, or the general meaning of the hadith, but لا يلزم منه أن الإمام أحمد رحمه الله تعالى قد صحح حديث أبي أمامة الوارد في هذه المسألة بهذه الألفاظ الأذنان من الرأس. So we have things of which they agree, things of which they differ. Every scholar, or not every scholar, but oftentimes scholars have specific wordings and usages that are specific to them. So whether Tirmidhi said it's Hasan, Gharib, Laysa Isnaduhu, Bidhaka al-Muttasil, or whatever the case may be. Everyone understand this? Another very important principle, extremely crucially important, is oftentimes some scholars, they make one hadith to be da'if, and they talk about that one isnad, and not other asanid. And Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah, others, they come along and they look at all the asanid of the hadith, the shawahid and the mutaba'at. Clear? So, hypothetically speaking, Tirmidhi could say one hadith is da'if, its isnad is weak, and Albani says that it's hasan, meaning the what? The matan bi majmu' al-shawahid wa turuq. And then we flip it the opposite side. Oftentimes, Imam Ahmad or Abu Hatim or Tirmidhi, they say, لا يصح فيه hadith. There's no authentic hadith regarding تخليل اللحية مثلا. The تخليل اللحية مثلا. ليس له حديث قائم. There's not one hadith that's sound on this issue. And then Shaykh al-Albani will come along and he'll say, i.e. بمفرده. There's no one hadith that's authentic by itself. But collectively, they're authentic. And that's not what that Imam meant. Rather, Imam Ahmad or Abu Hatim or Tirmidhi, he meant that it's what? لا يصح فيه hadith. So every hadith, as Ibn Rajab rahimahullah beautifully explained in his book Sharh al-Tirmidhi, he says, بل كل حديث ذوقه. He mentioned about the ulama of the past, the nuqat. He says, وَلَيْسَ عِنْدَهُمْ فِي ذَلِكَ ضَابِطٌ يَضْبِطُهُ. Every hadith has its own flavor. Sometimes it's what Tirmidhi means, all of them. Oftentimes Tirmidhi means just this one isnad. So it depends. And one of the most harmful things on ilm al-hadith is the influence of usul al-fiqh, the influence of ilm al-kalam, and the influence of the bid'ah of al-kalam fi sifat wal-qadr, the Jahmiyyah, the Mu'tazila, and the Ash'a'ira. And they brought their theoretical, philosophical, arithmetic way on ilm al-hadith, in which 1 + 1 must equal 2. 2 + 2 must equal 4. And that's not how ilm al-hadith was. Ilm al-hadith to the early ulama was fluid. It was fluid. This is a rawi who is mutakallim fi, he's weak. But in this narration, qad hafidh, he memorized it properly. And the proof that he memorized it properly, al-qara'in wal-mulabasat al-muhtafatu bihadihi riwayah, are the context clues, the indicators that show that this weak narrator in this narration got it right. And opposite is the opposite. Then we have context clues, qara'in, muhtafa. We have things that show and prove that this rawi who is thiqa قد وهم في هذه الرواية ولم يحفظها على وجهها. This trustworthy narrator did what? Heard wrong, or he presented it wrong, even though he's originally what? Trustworthy. That's how ilm al-hadith was back in the day. And then the later scholars, they turned it into solid, stiff, rigid arithmetic, in which a rawi thiqa ziyadatuhu maqbula. Just because he's thiqa, the hadith is automatically authentic. There's no way. And the rawi is da'if, his hadith is da'if. And that was unknown to the ulama of the past. As a general asl, yes. La mashi. But every single hadith, no. Alright? And that is because of the influence of, as I said, usul al-fiqh, ilm al-kalam, and the bid'ah of the different people's aqidah. And this is nothing which is a conspiracy, or this is not from one scholar that lives in this country, or this doctor names we can mention. This is historical proof in the tarikh of the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is that those people, they became dominant They became powerful and had a great influence on all of the sciences. The Arabic language, they had an influence on it. Tafsir, they had an influence on it. Usul al-fiqh, they had a what? An influence on it. And that ilm al-kalam and that rhetoric and that stuff, it dominated many people. And it seeped even upon the muhaddithin. Even upon the what? The muhaddithin. So as we've said before, there are things which all the scholars agree. There are things of which they differ. There are things that were based off of ijtihad. This is why it's important as a student of knowledge to memorize the small books. It's always important as a student of knowledge to learn ilm al-hadith, learn mustalah, to learn those books that we picked up, the Taqrib al-Tahdib, Tahdib al-Tahdib, Al-Mizan al-Iqtidal, and to gradually, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, get yourself into which you can discover it yourself. And read Ahmad's kalam versus Tirmidhi's kalam, Abbani's kalam versus Ahmad Shakir's kalam, وهكذا. And if not, then go with the scholar that you trust the most, and go with the scholar and his view that you feel makes the most sense. And there won't be no blame upon you. Wallahu alam. Fadl Ahmed.
How can we advise people who have like a fanaticism to like daughter do like its graduates, like invite them to like finance?
How can you advise people who have fanaticism with regards to certain graduates? Darul Ulum. Well, it's general. People have fanaticism for different universities, unfortunately. Some people, they may have the stigma or the feeling that if a person graduates from Medina, he's automatically 100% good. And that's not correct. That's wrong. And some may have the stigma or the feeling if you come from Darul Ulum and Deoband in this place, you're automatically Sufi Quburi. And that's not always right. That's not always right. If you come from Azhar, you're Ash'ari. If you come from Islam University Medina, you're upon the Athar and Aqid of the Sunnah. Not always necessarily. That's not true. It's not true. All right? So we've explained this before, is that fanaticism doesn't bring any good. A ta'assub. La ya'ti bi khayr. It brings no good. Not for the one whom you're making a fanaticism, not for you yourself who's a fanatic, or the general people. It doesn't bring no good. And the concept is that we have blind justice. Whoever brings the fa'idah, whoever brings the khair, we accept it. And we thank him for that. That doesn't mean that person is your personal teacher. That's a different story. But the concept of rejecting everything that someone says because they come from this place, and accepting everything that a person says because from that place, that's not from the deen of Islam. And the proof for that is, the ulama of Islam, they say, is the concept that he who says he only will take from one imam out of the 4, or one university out of the hundreds of universities in the Islamic world, is like someone who says, I only take from one sahabi. All of the Sahaba heard from the Prophet ﷺ, they studied with him. Some got more than others, yes. Some were stronger than others, but they all got some benefit from him and passed it on. I'm only going to take what Ibn Mas'ud says. I'm only going to take what Abu Hurairah says. I'm only going to learn from Ibn Abbas. No person in their right mind will say that. So why you say I'm only going to listen to Abu Hanifa? I'm only going to listen to Islamic University graduates. And even from Azhar, or Darul Ulum, or India, or Pakistan, or Yemen, he's automatically upon bid'ah. What's the shahada kalam and faldi? What's this hogwash that the people are upon today? And there lies no doubt for someone to be a Hanafi blind following bigot, a Shafi'i blind following bigot, and to declare it and to say it, perhaps that's better than someone who's claiming to be upon the way of the Salaf, and claiming to be orthodox, and claiming to be mutajarrid, to be free from ta'assub and taqleed, and he's a staunch, filthy fanatic for one scholar, one website, one school, one country. Because the Hanafi person, he's telling you, Abu Hanifa, huwa al-Imam al-A'zam. Case closed. Abu Hanifa, they agreed upon him. Imam al-Shafi'i, what did he say about Abu Hanifa? Munqati'u al-Nadhir fil fiqh. He said he's peerless. He has no match, no equal. No one can come close to Abu Hanifa with regards to fiqh and his intellectual power. He died how many years ago? Over 1,000 years ago. He's dead. Everything he said and done is there. And he says Abu Hanifa is the biggest, greatest Imam. I'm sticking with him. Done. Shafi'i took from Abu Hanifa. This one took from Abu Khlas. He's telling you he's a muqallid. He's telling you he's a fanatic. He's telling you this. But then you have someone who's saying, Qala Allah, Qala Rasulullah, Qala Sahaba. There's no worship of any person. لَيْسَ الْحَقْ يُعْرَفُ بِالرِّجَالِ وَلَكِنَّ الرِّجَالَ يُعْرَفُونَ بِالْحَقِّ. The truth is not known by men, but the men are known what? Through the truth. Lip service. And he's claiming and quoting Bukhari, Nahbad, and this and that. And this person, min ashad nasi ta'asuban. He's from the worst fanatics. Min ashad nasi taqleedan. Taqleed, a'ma. Total blind following. وَمِنْ أَشَدِّ النَّاسِ. He's from the worst of the people to have no respect for any other view or opinion except for what this one sheikh says. Who's more harmful now? The person that offers you a hamburger and he tells you that it comes from meat glue. It's not. There's no meat in this burger. It's a nose, a tongue, an ear, some skin, small piece of fat put together with glue, color, preservatives, but it tastes really good. Is there anyone who differs on the fact that a burger from McDonald's doesn't taste good? Who can say it doesn't taste good? If you ever had one before. No one in their right mind is going to say that the Big Mac what? Doesn't taste good. No one is going to say that. But is it meat? So this person is telling you it's made up from a bunch of stuff. If you drop the bun on the side of the door in your car driving, you come back 3 months later, the bun will be what? The exact same. It ain't even bread. He's telling you this. Versus the person who says this is pure, 100% organic Angus beef. Hand slaughtered. No preservatives, no this, no that. Pure sirloin, ground Angus beef. And it's nothing more than what? Sodium and salt and this and that and this and that. Who's more harmful upon the people? Who? There's no doubt. The person who's telling you that it's made from a bunch of stuff is more honest. And you know what you're getting. And someone who's claiming it as Angus beef and it's from the toenails and the lips and the tongue and the teeth of the what? Of a cow. If it's even a cow, maybe from a pig. Or the other bit that. So that is yani, there's no doubt about that. These people, whoever they are, they have this type of fanaticism. They've done a great deal of harm to the Muslims and to the Ummah. And their levels of fanaticism, and in my humble opinion, those who claim the orthodoxy, and they are blind following fanatics, and they accept no criticism about anything or anyone in their inner circle, hum adar. They've done 100 more times harm than the worst Darul Ulum, Deoband, Hanafi, Muqallid. Because they're clearly declaring what they're on. They're not quoting Quran and Sunnah. Ash'aris, this Shafi'i person, this person, they're telling you we're following Imam Shafi'i. They're telling you this. They are telling you you can't read Sahih Bukhari by itself. Which is Kalam Fadi. It's Batil. They're telling you this. They're telling you you have to stick with a person. You have to be a murid of a sheikh. You have to study a madhab for 50 years before you can even think about looking into a different opinion. They're telling you this. And then you have someone, Qali Imam Ahmad, Ibn Taymiyyah, Bukhari, Qala Allah, Qala Rasulullah, And he doesn't realize that he's a muqallid and he's a muta'assib. He's destroying the perfect name of the pure way of the Salaf al-Salih. You understand this? So that's the correct way of stating the question and answering the question. And you can't just fight the ta'assub from Deoband, but don't talk about it from those who have it for other people. It doesn't work like that. You have to be against what? All of it. You understand this? Wallahu alam.
Initials MC, Queens, New York. Can a practicing brother be a professional wedding photographer or portrait photographer? And does this photography fall under the prohibition of making taswir?
Questions from Queens. Can a practicing brother be a professional wedding photographer? And does it fall under the ruling of a taswir? Obviously, the word practicing is subjective. No doubt about that. Kalima nisbiya, yani. There's no question about that. Especially in 2019, in which the modern world as a whole, or yani at large, is against religion. In general. In general. Let alone Islam. Let alone the proper Islam, Orthodox Islam, the way of the Salaf in general. For you to be religious, you're generally looked down upon. Or you're looked at as being a weirdo. Or you're looked at as being righteous. Those who don't make fun of nuns and priests and sisters, they don't make fun of them, but they definitely look at them as being what? You know, away from the society. You know, you stay in the church, in the temple all day, and the rest of the world runs. That's the reality. Okay, you look at someone, an Orthodox Jew walking down the street, he sticks out like a sore thumb. You look at a woman who has a skirt, she sticks out like a short thumb because all the other women wearing tights and shorts and skirts. It's the reality. Let alone a Muslim woman wearing an abaya, niqab, gloves. She's going to stick out like a sore thumb. So when you say practicing, there's some people practicing is I make 5 salats a day and I wear jeans and a khimar, but I pray. Because I have a cousin and a sister who doesn't what? Pray at all. Or they only make Isha and Asr, or the other billah. Then I have another person, a sister who wears a loose shirt and baggy pants. She makes all 5 her salahs. She makes some dhikr. She has some Sufi nasheed music, Islamic music that she listens to. She's a what? A notch up. And there's another sister who has on a full overgarment, but she doesn't cover her face. And she's trying to study more traditional classic stuff. And there's another sister who has on a niqab. They're studying different levels of what? Practicing. All right? So it depends what you mean by practicing. If you're trying to do that which is best, and you're trying to be pious and righteous, and you're trying to live Islam, inshallah ta'ala, I would not advise you to be a professional photographer unless you had exclusive clientele. Exclusive clientele. In which you have the say-so what you take a photograph of. I would take picture of the brothers. My wife would take pictures of the sisters. Mathalan. This is unacceptable dress in my studio. I'm sorry. I will not come to your event if you're dressing like this, you're playing the music like that, then I'm sorry. In which I have specific photographs. Brother needs pictures for Umrah, for license, whatever the case may be. Or a person says that taking a photograph is not haram, as many ulama have said, and I want to take a photograph of my family. It's one thing. The wife doesn't wear the niqab. You see her face if she walks into a store. You take a picture of her. That's one thing. That's what? It's one thing. But you being a professional wedding photographer and you take a job from anyone, Muslim, non-Muslim, covering, non-covering, practicing Muslim, whatever the case may be, that's a problem. Whether it is tasweer or what? Or not. That's mushkila. As we've explained before, the ruling of a tasweer, according to those ulama, there are different views. Even those ulama who said it's permissible to take photographs, there's certain photographs which should not be taken. There's certain photographs which are unbefitting. Everyone understand this? It's just like being a barber. I'm not shaving your beard. Malish, I can't help you. All my clientele, hypothetically speaking, are brothers who don't get their beards shaven. That's my clientele. If you consider fade to be haram, it's qaza. You consider it to be qaza. I'm not giving you a fade. But if you're a public barber, and a walk-in comes into your shop, how can you tell him I can't give you a fade? How long will you stay in business? How long will you stay in business, Abdul Raqib? No doubt. People want to get this guy, he's discriminating against me because he didn't want to do this. You're not going to make money unless you have your what? Exclusive clientele. In which you have your customers who are compliant to your Sharia dietary laws. Everyone understand this? Wallahu alam.
Initials MB, Ontario, Canada. May Allah bless you with that. Why do you say Muhammad with a kasra on the second meme? Am I hearing you wrong, or is that how it's actually pronounced?
Tight. Question is from Toronto. May Allah bless you, Ustad. May Allah bless you as well. Why do you say Muhammad with a kasra on the second meme? Or am I hearing you wrong? Maybe I'm mispronouncing it. Perhaps. I've never heard that or had anyone say that. I don't know. Maybe. Mumkin. Maybe you heard right and I said it wrong. Or maybe I said it right and the sound is messed up with the microphone. However, at the end of the day, we know that Muhammad is ism maf'ul. Okay? And the basic concept of ism maf'ul is that's not with a what? With a kasra. On that wasn't, huh? Muhammad, mufa'al. And not mufa'il. Wallahu alam.
Initials MI, Birmingham, UK. Assalamu alaikum, Mufti. Can intentions for Sunnah fast be combined if they fall on the same day, etc.? Shawwal, Mondays, Thursdays, and white nights?
Sorry, Mufikum Barakallah, question from the UK. Sunnah fast. Can they be combined or merged with fasting on certain recommended days, the white nights, Monday, Thursday, etc.? Yes. But you're getting the virtue of the time. The virtue of the time. This is the day I'm fasting for Shawwal, and I want to do it on Monday instead of Tuesday. La bas. I want to do it on Thursday instead of Wednesday. La bas. It's the 13th, the 14th, etc. La bas. Nothing wrong with that. That's fine, inshallah. They're both voluntary. Wallahu alam. Fadl Ahmed.
Is there a concept of like jails in Islam, like how we have like in America?
Jails? Is there a concept of jails in al-Islam like we have in America? Yes and no. Yes and no. There are certain things which are compliant with the original text with regards to a criminal or with regards to someone who is being forced, or not forced, but offered to make tawbah, yustatab. Yuhbasu thalathan. All right? فَإِن تَابَ وَإِلَّا كَذَا. That's one thing. All right, the concept of holding someone on trial until they're proven to be this or that. Surah Yusuf talks about incarceration. All right. As far as the concept of the detailed system of incarceration, why, how people are incarcerated, how long they're incarcerated, and of course, some of those things will agree with the Islamic principles, and others clearly go against it, and others are in the middle, in which is going to be based off of the ijtihad of the leader. You understand what I'm saying to you? So the concept of, just look at it just in general, like, not to get into what people call conspiracies. I consider them to be facts. How people live, how people are raised, the environments that people are placed in. What do you think a person is going to do living in this situation in this inner city? What do you think is going to be the outcome? You don't give them this. You don't provide them with that. You don't do this. You put this on a television screen. What do you think he's going to do to get it? Except something illegal. And then you lock him up. What happens when he's locked up? What happens to his mother, his children, his wife, his friends? And it's a continuing cycle of incarceration, can't get a job, crime, this and that. It's a messed up system. Is that the justice of Islam? I don't understand this. So some things are, some things what? Aren't, clearly, and some things are going to be maybe, maybe not, in the middle. Oppression, and there's certain things which are good with regards to the incarceration, the concept of certain rights, certain things, having proof and evidence before someone is sentenced, and not just, oh, you're executed, cut off his head. It's not a Sharia abadan. That's be deleted that this person made this, that there's no excuse, you understand what I'm saying to you? And there are many, many examples of this manifestation in the Sharia, and oftentimes that's manifested in the modern legal system, in which you've been locked up on these charges. You have a right to an attorney. You have a right to say this. And you're not just considered guilty, even though you're found at the crime of the scene with a bloody knife. You may not have done that. Wallahu alam.
Initials A.V. book in New York.
Also, the concept of capital punishment. All of those different things. Many, many things. Allowing someone to stay alive for such a long time. Who's paying for his food and drink? Person is convicted, guilty, conclusive proof. And they stay alive for years before they're executed. Everyone understand that? Is that Islamically compliant? Injecting someone with some type of poison. There's many different aspects. Wallahu alam.
Initials A.B. book in New York. Barakallahu people. Is it permissible to use products made from the Dead Sea?
Question is from Brooklyn, New York. Is it permissible to use products made from the Dead Sea? You would have to have a reason why it's haram to use products from the Dead Sea. The water itself, the location of the Dead Sea, who's in charge of the Dead Sea, who is it supporting. There has to be a dalil making it haram to use products. And that's because, as a rule of thumb, you can use whatever product you want until it is proven to be haram in the book and in the sunnah. Makeup, baking ingredients. What's the rule on using vanilla extract? It's haram until proven halal, or halal until proven haram. No doubt. It has to be haram until proven. It's halal until proven haram. What's the rule on buying a case of dates from Palestine, what people call Israel, Palestine? Do you have to boycott them? Is it impermissible to give them their money? It's halal until what? Proven haram. Because it's a worldly product. Or some say what? Fancy socks. Unfortunately. Allahumma stan. Allahumma barak.
Initials NH, Toronto, California, Canada. If I wake up 5 minutes before sunrise, washing up will take 2 to 3 minutes. That leaves 2 to 3 minutes before sunrise. Is it still okay to pray when I know that the sunrise will happen while I am praying?
Type questions from California or Ken, Toronto.
Canada.
Person wakes up 5 minutes before sunrise. Do I wash up first or do I pray first? Why are you washing up? For freshness or janaba or menses? You have to specify, please. If it's something that you have to wash up for, you wash up first. And if it's something which is preferred or school or work, then you pray first and then wash up. It depends why. You have to specify.
Assalamu alaikum, YB from Utah. Why do the Ash'ari not take a hadith in Aqidah?
Question is from what city and state again?
Oh, it's just as Utah.
Please specify. Huh? Inshallah. Jazakallah khairan. The city and state, please. Please provide the city and state, and we'll be more than glad to answer the question. Inshallah, if we know the answer.
Initials NK Gießen, Germany. There's a sister that's suffering from depression and social phobia. I'm not sure whether she's still practicing Islam. She wears khimar, but posts satanic pictures and doesn't want me to talk about anything Islamic with her. I don't know how to help her. Could you give me some advice?
Question comes from Germany. With regards to a sister who suffers from some type of clinic or constant chronic depression, and she posts satanic images and things like this, and I don't know if she's still practicing or not, and she doesn't want me to mention or speak of anything Islamic. I don't know what to do to help her, etc. First and foremost is make dua for her. Allah Azza wa Jalla is the only one who causes good and causes harm. If He allows it, and if He doesn't allow it, that's the bottom line. So ask Allah, her creator, her Lord, her sustainer, and the one who's more merciful to her than you can possibly ever be on your best day. Pray to Him to help her. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Make tawassul. Ask Allah Azza wa Jalla by His names and attributes to help that sister with regards to her specific situation. Invoke Allah via His names and attributes. Call upon Him. He who guides, ask her to guide Him. He who cures, ask her to cure Him. Wahakadha. Secondly is, try your best not to be overly judgmental to her. Don't be overly critical upon her. Try to present yourself as a friend and as a helper. I'm no specialist in these issues, psychiatric issues, psychology. I'm no specialist in these things. But from my little experience in life, and from the few books that I read in life, and dealing with people in life, I know oftentimes that people have these issues because they're suffering from something, some type of post-traumatic experience. Someone did something wrong to them. Someone harmed them, all right? And oftentimes they have trust issues and they have problems with people, and oftentimes they're made fun of and they're ridiculed. And people come to them and they're too judgmental. So oftentimes you don't have to go to them giving them advice. You don't have to go to them saying this. Just go to them as a friend. Gain their trust. Gain their love. Try to relate to her situation, and then perhaps, be even in that, when she's ready, she'll open up to you and ask a question or share an experience with you or cry on your shoulders. Perhaps. If you get the chance to give her some advice and she's willing, she's listening, give it to her. If you can help her out, help her out. Try your best, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, and at the end of the day, it's in Allah's hands. Subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's nothing you can do to change that. But try your best, inshallah. Try your best. Try to be a friend. Don't be judgmental. Don't be critical. And lead by example. And try to show her the importance of istiqamah and what istiqamah does for you. Because I pray 5 times a day, I can sleep at night. I make prayers at night, I make witr, I do this, I wake up feeling good. I have halal wealth, I don't have to worry nobody coming after me. So on and so forth. Try to show through your actions the need and the necessity and the virtue of her doing the right thing. And bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, try to connect her with someone that can get her the necessary help. The professional help. Help which is professional Islamically. Help which is professional clinically, and the help that she needs for just herself and the things that she can do to improve her situation, and inshallah ta'ala work on that problem that many people suffer from. Wallahu alam.
Sheikh, I think you may have said off the tongue when you were
Fadal.
talking about tawassul.
Okay.
You said have her cure him.
Ayah, طيب. Jazakallah khairan. With regards to making a tawassul, imploring Allah via His names and attributes that are appropriate to the situation, having Him help her, and not her help him. Jazakallah khairan.
Initials MB, Ontario, Canada. As many students are graduating this year and will soon be employed inshallah and will be purchasing their own possessions, can you do a series of lectures or a workshop on zakat?
Students, طيب, khairan. With regards to students graduating this year, inshallah, and many of them will have their own possessions, they'll be working, they'll have their own stuff. Can you do a series on what?
Series of videos on zakat.
A series of videos on zakat. طيب, inshallah. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, try our best to honor that request. We've done many playlists on zakat that are on the channel over the years. Please go back to those videos. I'm sure there's always room for improvement with regards to, first and foremost, the quality of the video, the quality of the audio, let alone if you do something 5 years ago, of course you learn many things within that 5 years. So inshallah ta'ala, we've gained more knowledge, and maybe we need to do more and shape it or revamp it. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Jazakallah khair. And until then, what's in those playlists is what? Khairun kathir, inshallah. Good, an abundant amount of good. Wallahu alam.
Initials AV, Brooklyn, New York, article people. Is there any evidence that the Prophet ﷺ raised his finger in between the two sajdas?
Questions from Brooklyn. Is there any evidence that the Prophet ﷺ raised his finger between the two sajdas? There are hadith on it. Are they authentic? It's a different story. But there are hadith with regards to moving the finger between the sajdatain. There are hadith on it. And there are many researchers and scholars who hold those hadiths to be inauthentic. Wallahu alam.
Dawood A, Washington D.C. How do you refute a person that only follows Quran? What an example to refute their ways? Is it a simple belief? What's an example of it is part in hadith that is not in Quran?
Right. Question says, how do you refute someone who only follows the Quran? Is it a sinful belief? What is an example of something which is fard in the sunnah and not in the hadith, etc.? First and foremost, we have an oxymoron here. If a person says there's no hadith, there's no sunnah, there's no messenger of Allah, just the Quran, then they're not what? Following the Quran. They can't be following the Quran. Allah clearly says, whatever you differ on, take it back to Allah and His messenger. If you believe in Allah on the last day. Okay, so we want to use the terminology of the people, the Qur'ani, even though they're not Qur'anis. Inshallah, I hope to be a Qur'ani. And I wish for each and every one of you also to be a what? A Qur'ani. And all of us to be a Qur'aniyun. Alright? The proper terminology, munkirul hadith, munkirul sunnah. Hadith rejectors. But they're not Qur'anic at all. So, the Qur'ani person is going to say, well, that was for the time of the companions. When the Prophet was alive, when the Messenger was alive, he delivered the message of the Quran. God said, go back to him. All right, maybe that's true. Maybe, mumkin. Okay, possible. But why did they have to go back to the Prophet then if he delivered them the Quran? That was 100% clear and lucid. What was the point of them going back to him? And the Quran clearly stipulates that. Oh, well, he was the one who gave them the Quran and so on and so forth. All right, type, no problem. That doesn't make sense, but we'll take that one too. So why is that verse still recited to this day in 2019? فَإِن تَنَازَعْتُمْ فِي شَيْءٍ فَرُدُّوهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. Why? If the messenger's job is totally oblivious now, why is it still there? Or why do we have verses in the Quran that command us to obey the messenger, follow the messenger, beware of opposing the messenger, and has nothing about Allah in the Quran? We have verses that say obey Allah and the apostle. And we have verses that say and obey the apostle in order for you to receive mercy. Let those who oppose his command beware, lest a fitna befall them. Is that not from the qira'ah? So can you make sense out of that? If you can explain it to me logically, scientifically, I will relinquish the hadiths and become a Qur'ani. And if you can't make logical and sensible, scientific sensible proof of that, you have to be a hadithi now. Because you're not making sense. And that on top of sense is utter disrespect to Allah. Allah, the Lord of the world, said, go back to someone who is a human being. He's a man who speaks when he's angry, when he's happy. He told his companions not to write down anything that he said. The Quran is enough for you. There's no way we can preserve all of his hadiths. His companions fought over who's the leader, Muawiyah or Ali, so on and so forth. The hadiths don't make any sense. And Allah says, go back to that when you differ and when you fight. This is disrespect to Allah. Ultimate disrespect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For Allah to stipulate for us to go back to something that makes no sense, that has no existence, that has no way of authenticating it and verifying it. So why does Allah tell us to go back to it? That's a huge problem. So that answers the first two questions with regards to refuting him, and is it a sinful belief? Everyone understand this? And what's an example of something being farther than the hadith that's not in the Quran? Why do you need an example? Come to mid-ground. I'm going to bring you hadiths that are in 101% line with the Quranic injunctions to show you that it's all from one divine source. And that the Quran, in most cases, does nothing more than elucidate, explain, give detail, and lay down what the Quran has established. Will you not accept it then? Oftentimes you take someone too far from the midpoint. Meet them at midway. You understand this? At midway. And show them how there's no contradiction between the two. And then once they get that, they accept that, they see the science behind it, then you explain that marrying a woman and her aunt at the same time was not mentioned in the Quran. And it was mentioned in the Hadiths. But how can you reject this Hadith and not, or accept the one that's in hand with the Quran? Now something's wrong now. They're both authentically reported in the same way, in the same book. So is it just desire you pick and choose what you want to do now? You understand this? You have to use logic, you have to use wisdom. Ibrahim alayhi salam, he said the big idol did it. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong that the big idol didn't break the small idols. Show me how he did it. You know he doesn't talk, he doesn't move. So why do you worship them? You have to use this. You understand this? Wallahu alam.
This shows why are boys Idaho? Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh Mufti. There's a girl I want to marry who's a student of knowledge, but my mother hates her because she had a relationship with my brother 5 years ago when she was a non-Muslim. What should I do? My mother said it is better for die than to marry her.
Tight. This will be our last question tonight, inshallah. Question is from Idaho. With regards to, I want to marry a sister who's a student of knowledge, but my mother doesn't like her. She hates her because she had a relationship, I'm supposing, haram relationship, with my brother some years before, and she'd rather die than have me marry, etc. So I would say this, and Allah knows best. May Allah bless you. It's just because a sister is a student of knowledge doesn't mean she's a good wife. That's first and foremost. Just because a brother is a student of knowledge doesn't mean he's a what? Good husband. He could be Ibn Taymiyyah incarnate, as they say, quote unquote. We don't believe in tanasukh al-arwah. All right. Speaking. He could be Ibn Taymiyyah today. That does not mean that he's a what? Good husband. Rather, unfortunately, the more Ibn Taymiyyah reminiscent he is, he could oftentimes be a what? Worse husband. Because Ibn Taymiyyah studied, read, prayed, fasted, gave charity, fought in jihad, advised the ruler, so on and so on and so on and so on. So much so that Ibn Taymiyyah never what? Because he didn't have time. So I'm trying to make a point here. I'm not trying to say that a student of knowledge is a bad husband. No. I'm trying to make a point. Is that there's no talazum. Just because a person is an excellent scholar does not mean he will be a what? Excellent husband or father. It does not, is no requirement. He's a good father, a good husband, and he's a scholar, and he's learning, and he's righteous, and he has ilm. Alhamdulillah. But there's no what? Talazum, in which one equals what? Another. You can have a simple person who knows the basics. Surah Al-Fatiha, Qul huwallahu ahad, Qul a'udhu bi rabbil falaq, Qul a'udhu bi rabbin nas. That's it. And he can be the best husband in the world. Best father in the world. You have someone who memorized Musnad Imam Ahmed who will be the worst husband in the world. So get rid of that notion, just because she's a student of knowledge, she's a good wife or candidate for a wife. Secondly is, just because she's a good student of knowledge and a good woman for a wife, doesn't mean she's compatible with you. It does not mean, she could be, but it doesn't what? It doesn't mean that she's automatically compatible with you. And one issue, and Allah knows best, I don't know the questioner, but one issue of possible or probable compatibility is, let's say the guy's a virgin and she made zina before, or she was married. Your mother, I don't know your mother may be thinking that you need to marry a girl who's a what? Who's a virgin like you. You need to marry a girl who's younger than you. You need to marry a girl who has no experience. She's pure and innocent, at least physically, in 2019, like you are, inshallah ta'ala. Maybe that's your mother's rationale, and that may not be what? Wrong. That may not be wrong. So what's important is, if she's a student of knowledge, and that's the greatest feature that you want, but she has other issues or means of compatibility, and she's a good wife, inshallah, and you like her, and she's pretty, and your mother doesn't want you to marry, then that's what? One thing. As far as just because she's a student of knowledge does not mean that your mother is wrong. Your mother may be right, and you may be wrong. What's important is that you have to make a list of the pros and the cons, and force her to beat your list. So, Umi, true, she was married before, or she made zina before my brother. It's going to be tension, no doubt. It's going to feel funny. The family is going to be ashamed. but she's bang, Muslim, bang, she's my age, she's student of knowledge, she's really pretty, she's this, she's that, she's this, she's that. She made a mistake, but she comes from a good family. I have 10 pros and what?
One con.
Or 3 cons. Here you go, Umi. You now have to what? Refute my list. And if you just hold on to one thing, Umi, is that she made zina, or she was married to this and that, and you can't refute the other 10 points, how do you expect me to listen to that? Say this to Umi, kindly and respectfully. And perhaps it'll soften her heart. Maybe it won't soften her heart. Maybe she will stay on her view. My advice to you is you can find a sister that's good, that's a student of knowledge, that's pretty. You have to keep what? Paying attention to that. You got to keep it real now. In 2019, you have to what? Keep it real. The sister that you want to be with, if you can find someone that's compatible and good for you, and she did make zina, or she wasn't married to your brother, this and that, and it pleases your ummi, perhaps that's what? Aqrabu lit-taqwa, closer to piety. And if you don't, or like some brothers, if you're stuck on that, and there's no other woman in the world except for this one sister, and she is a good sister, except for that one blemish, then try your best to convince your mother, to speak with your mother, inshallah ta'ala. And success is with Allah, the Mighty and the Most High.
Clarification on the previous question, or clause?
We'll take the clarification, inshallah.
Rachel, NH, Toronto, Canada. If I wake up 5 minutes before sunrise, it will take 3 minutes for making wudu and brushing teeth. That leaves 2 minutes before sunrise. Can I still pray knowing that the sun will rise during the salah?
Okay, we have a whole different question now. A whole different or total different question. Hold on, huh? Make up a word. Whole different question now. Making wudu and brushing the teeth, not ghusl. 2 different things. Make the wudu, don't brush your teeth. Make a simple, quick, light wudu, doing the basic fard, and pray. Even if your second rak'ah is after the sun has begun to rise. Make the prayer. As the Prophet ﷺ said, Man nama an salatin aw nasiyaha, falyusalliha idha dhakaraha. He says, whenever or whoever person forgets out a prayer, or oversleeps from a prayer, then he should make up that prayer as soon as he remembers it. Huh? And there's no kaffara, there's no expiation except for what? Doing that? لأن الله تعالى يقول, because Allah says, establish the prayer for what? لذكري, for my remembrance. Wallahu alam.